Hey guys, my name is Sam Bell and this is my lesson for Guitar Break's Festival of Guitar in association with Boss and Tonepedia. I was just looping there on my Boss GT1000 core, which they kindly gifted me for the festival, and an MD200, which is a mixture of modulations and all kinds of extra effects. So thank you so much guys, really inspiring to play through. So we're going to be in the key of D minor. And we're going to use D minor pentatonic, so you're probably fairly familiar with pattern number 1. That's 10-13 on the E, 10-12 on the A, D and the G string, and then 10-13 on the B and E string. Cool. Another pattern we can also use just for this particular lesson to get across the fingerboard is pattern number 2, which starts here in the 13th position. So they bolt together. That's all the notes of D minor pentatonic. So you've got 13 and 15 on the low E string, and then 12 and 15 on the A and the D string, and then 12 and 14 on the G, and 13 and 15 on the B and high E strings. So fairly straightforward so far. So those are the patterns we're going to be using. Now, what's nice, with most situations, if I play my loop again, second position, so those are the kind of phrases we get, and they are fantastic, and there's so many things you can do with that. If we want to start extending that without having to learn any kind of crazy new scales or anything like that, we can actually play another pentatonic, no different than the pentatonic we already know, but we're just going to start it from a different root note. And in this case, if we take this pattern, if we look at D on the E string 10th fret, and if we look at A on the A string 12th fret, and you play them together without delay, you get this. And that is a power chord. Okay, also known as a fifth. The interval from D to A is a fifth. So wherever that pattern is, if I take D on the 12th fret on the D string, we've got fifths. Now, fifth away is A. If we actually do an A minor pentatonic, and I'm going to show you this position right here. So that is the 12th fret on the A string and 15th fret, then 12 and 14 on the D and the G string, and then we have 13, 15 on the B, and 12, 15, 17 to get up to the root note. We've got the whole position there. That's all the notes of A minor pentatonic. Now, if we look at the root note, obviously if we're playing the root note of A minor pentatonic over D, that's the 5th of D. If we play the 14th, 15th fret on the A string, that's the 7th. Then the D note itself in the A minor pentatonic is actually the root note now. That makes the E on the 14th fret D string become the 9th. Then you've got the 11th, and you've also got the 5th there. So you're playing a pentatonic scale, and you're getting the 9th and the 11th, which are sort of extension tones. So let me just demonstrate. What I'll do is I'll play that loop again, and I'll say what I'm doing, and I'll just play I'll play the basic patterns of those two scales. In fact, I'll play D minor up here in the 10th position and A minor here on the 5th position. So I'll be using pattern 1 for this example in both cases. So D minor pentatonic. Now A minor pentatonic. D minor. Now what's nice is if you have those two positions together, like if we have D minor pentatonic position 1 and A minor pentatonic, I'm going to go for position 3. Put them together, so D minor, A minor, D minor, A minor, D minor. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that you can see that I'm playing the same patterns. You can hear very familiar sounds. So hopefully now you can see that you can use those two pentatonics. You can do more actually. There's other things you can do with pentatonics by moving them up and down. But the formula of pentatonic played up a fifth is a really useful one. So we can use the pentatonic upper fifth from the root notes of the chord that we're playing over in a minor tonality. If it's functioning as the 2 chord in a key, so if it's like a D minor 7 to G7 for example, that kind of chord sequence, then you can use the A minor pentatonic over that D minor and over that G7, but for now just think of it as a simple hack just to get the sound straight away. You can also use it over the 6th chord in a key, so for example if it's D minor, C and B flat, if that was the chord progression, one of those kind of things, you could use that A minor pentatonic over the top and get a similar result. But what I really wanted to showcase today in this lesson was to actually look at the expansions of these positions, how we can actually maneuver around the patterns in order to get some different sounds which aren't as bluesy, so to speak, which is a desirable thing sometimes, and also a really good way of adding another dimension to your blues playing, is having another way of visualising the scale in order to get different results. So the first little phrase I've got prepared for you guys today is this one. Okay, so that was 2 different pentatonics, and I was using some fifth shapes within the pattern, so looking for fifth intervals within the pattern. That's a really nice way of breaking up the scale. Often a lot of the lines we play in the pentatonic can be scalic, meaning they're following the pattern, so going note-wise down the scale. What we're doing here though is jumping using fifth shapes. So here we're going to go 10 to 12, E to A. Then we take the same shape within that position. I'm thinking D minor at the moment. And then 10, 12 on the D to the G. And then we're going to grab this note here on the B string, 10 and 12, B and E. So that's a fifth. You'll notice that that E note there isn't in the D minor pentatonic. However, it is in the A minor pentatonic, and if we're thinking about position 3 A minor, so that lives inside of that position 1 D minor. So I find that fifth there. Now we can come at the same information from thinking of D Dorian or even D natural minor, but I think having the pentatonics in your mind as you play makes you phrase differently. It makes you phrase more. It gets you closer to the blues influence, but gives you a sound which is a little bit more quote-unquote modern. Okay, so that's the first half of the lick. We're using triplets as well, triplet eighths. Then we're going to move here. This is going to be out of pattern 4 of A minor. And we're going to find the fifths in that position, so 12 and 14, A and D string. And then 12 and 15, G and B string. And then 13 and 15, B and E. So you put all that together. You've probably heard people like Eric Johnson use this a lot, and you'll hear lots of modern players such as Andy James using these ideas. This idea also kind of reminds me of Alan Murphy, a lot of his playing, and a lot of these ideas I'm showcasing today are kind of Alan Murphy-esque. So let's move on to another concept we can use where we take two positions and fit them together and we get a 3-note per string pattern. So I'm just going to show you this in just D minor. So if we take position 1 and then add position 2, you end up with a 3-note per string pattern. Now, don't worry if you can't get those notes in the stretch. What I want you actually to just think about is the visualization of it, because that will get different phrases out of there. So, you know, things like using a bit of whammy bar there, and you get that kind of sound, a bit more legato sort of phrasing. If I jump to example 3 actually on the tablature, which you guys hopefully have access to, I've got this phrase. Let's hear that over the backing track. One more time. I quite like the sound of that. You know, it's a different sound, but it's all pentatonic. So a nice way of getting out of there. So that phrase starts 13, hammer on to 15, pull off to 10 on the E. So that's combining position 1 and 2 of D minor. And then we carry that on, same shape on the B string, same shape on the G. Oh, sorry, not quite the same shape, sorry, I was thinking of something else there. It's 12, 14, pull off to 10. And then 12, 15 on the D, pull off to 10. Same again on the A string. And then, well, I finished there actually on the tablature. So you could take that through both of the shapes. You could take that from the A minor pentatonic. So that's combining pattern 4 and 5 of the A minor pentatonic, 5 being up here in this position. So what I'd like to do now is just try improvising around those two ideas. A minor, D minor, so there I was mixing up those two positions. My battery's about to go and I'm going to continue with another battery. So another concept, and you'll see this in expansion #2 on the tab, this is a 2-1-2 concept. So we're going to actually take 2 notes from the scale and then 1 note. Now we're going to take this from the A string portion, so we're going to go 10, 15 on the A, 12 on the D, and then 12, 14 on the G, so then 13 on the B, and then 10, 15 on the high E string. I'm also going to throw in 10 and 13 on the low E string. Now that's a nice way of really breaking up the pentatonic. Let's hear how that sounds over the backing. Some fifths, back to some 2-1-2s, but now in A minor, and then back to D minor, position 2 and okay. So that gives us some more options for really expanding that pentatonic sound across the neck. I'd encourage you guys to sort of take the patterns I've transcribed, but also to see if you can find your own patterns using the concepts. Because if you sort of explore, if you take an idea like 2-1-2 with the pentatonics and mixing up pentatonics root and 1 off the 5th, you'll inevitably come up with tons of your own ideas. And what's nice is you are using the patterns, but you also be mindful of the intervals that you're playing as well, which is kind of my key philosophy, is focusing on intervals that you're playing over the chords. But this is really nice to create textures with, and go further with your pentatonic phrasing. Okay, so let's just look at the final concept. I want to look at stacking. Something just before we go on to this final example, you can take those fifths, which sound great. You can also take jumps like that. I mean, intervallically, this is a 7th, flat 7th, and this would be a major 6th. But what I'm doing really is taking 10 on the E and 10 on the D string in D minor, and then 13 on the E and 12 on the D. So take some octaves of that as well. And you instantly get some really wide interval sounds. I'm going to show you that in this line. There's a little phrase that goes, and then we're going to descend in some fourths within the scale. But we'll come to that. The actual opening bit is this. I want to put some chorus on for this. Hopefully you can hear some volume swells as well, and we're going to do this. So that idea is taking chord shapes out of the pentatonics. So this is D minor pentatonic. At the top of position 1, we've got 12, 13 and 13 on B and E. So 12 on the G, 13 on the B, 13 on the E. Then we're going to move that symmetrically down here. So you've got 9, 10, 10. Technically, this is, you can think of this as pentatonic at 9 or A minor pentatonic position 3. Really, I'm just looking for clusters of notes from those two combined pentatonic patterns that I can play together. Obviously, intervallically over D, that's the 4th, flat 7th and the flat 3. When I play this position down here, 9, 10, 10, it's the 9th, the 5th and the root. Then we're going to move down here, we're going to take this little stacked pattern. So that's 12, 12, 13. 12, 12, 13, I'll say that properly. And that's the root, the 4th and the flat 7. Then we're going to move it down here. And this is basically an A minor triad over D minor, which gives us a D minor 9 tonality. But really I'm coming at this just by thinking of stacked pentatonic notes. Let's hear how that sounds over a backing. I might make it a bit crunchy. And I'm using my Boss MD200 chorus as well. This is nice for sort of stacking. Maybe I'll do something a bit cleaner. Maybe I'll arpeggiate it. And then maybe I'll do my line. I'll do it a bit cleaner this time. Now what did I do there at the end? Let's have a listen. So what I did there, I didn't actually plan this bit, but this is something I do a lot as well with pentatonics, but also with sus chords. This is a F sus2 triad, and this is a D sus2 triad. Really, these will pop out with the D minor pentatonic and A minor pentatonic shapes. You've got 15 on the D, 12 on the G, and 13 on the B string. That's an F sus2, but over D, that is kind of a D minor 11 tonality, and then you've got move that same shape down, 12 on the D, 9 on the G, 10 on the B, root 9 fifth. That's just a straight triad over that chord. So there we have it. Those are some of the pentatonic concepts. So to sort of summarise this lesson, we've got taking a pentatonic in one position over the chord if it's D minor pentatonic, and then using a pentatonic upper fifth from that. So if it's D minor pentatonic, we can use A minor pentatonic, and that will work over most minor situations that we're going to come across in most rock and funk and pop sort of situations. There's lots more theory behind this. For further exploration of this, I highly encourage you guys to check out Scott Henderson's Jazz Rock Fusion Mastery. That's a classic course. He talks about superimposition. It gets quite advanced with some melodic minor sort of stuff and more scalic and triadic approaches. Another really great book is Frank Gambale's Technique Book 1 and 2. I suggest starting with 1. You can probably find it for about a tenner on Amazon. It's a really good book. It breaks it all down, all different approaches for each different chord type, and this will be in there, this kind of concept. But people have been using this for many years. You hear this in jazz fusion, you hear it with Alan Murphy, of course, you hear it in Larry Carlton's playing, you hear it in Frank Gambale, Scott Henderson, Alan Holdsworth, but not only do the jazz cats use it, also people like Tim Pierce use it, all the session players, Steve Lukather, they're going to be using this concept as well, because it's a great way of expanding on those sounds and getting more from our beloved minor pentatonic scale. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you have any questions, then you can contact me on my Instagram, which is @SamBellGuitar. You can also find me on YouTube, youtube.com/SamBellGuitar. I do a lot of stuff on there, lessons and things like that, but I'm also happy just to take questions. If there's anything you've found out today or any questions you have about what I've spoken about today, I'd be more than happy for you to ask me a question. I'm happy to try and answer that for you. Thank you so much, Ian, for having me here at Guitar Breaks. I want to thank once again Boss for their generosity. Ian and the team have been great, and hopefully this lesson has been useful and beneficial. Take care, enjoy the rest of the festival. See you guys soon.